Well, here I am again. This one is the test review. You notice there's no slides to see. All you got to look at my ugly mug. What I'm going to do here, again, to remind you that the test comes up. Get here, kind of sit midway on the screen, I guess. The test comes up um, uh, on September the 30th at 8 o'clock. And it goes down at the end of the day, actually 11:59 on October the 2nd. Now, you also have 1 hour to take the exam. And I'm assuming this. I don't know for sure because I haven't done this on the Canvas yet. But in the old one, it didn't give you the grade if you go past the hour. And then I would see how long it took, and if you were over 15 minutes, then I would start deducting points. My suggestion for you is just get it done in under an hour. It gives you about 2.5 minutes, because I don't know whether it'll shut off or not. I haven't heard. I'll find out once I get feedback from y'all on what you had to do, what you had to work with. I did do something here that I haven't done before, and I hope it'll be helpful to you. If you missed the question, it'll give you what the real answer is. And that's okay for me, because you may not see that question again. I see the testing here more as a review, although you do get points for it, of course. But it's a learning process. It's a way to test what your comprehension of where we are so far in the process. So hopefully it'll be helpful for you. And if you want to write down the answer, and if you see the question again, you'll know the answer automatically. It doesn't matter, but I'll get in the answer. It should come up when the test is finished as well. If it doesn't, let me know and I can go back in and correct it. So this is the first one's kind of an experiment for me to see how it works on the way I like to give tests. So anyway, it'll come up September 30th at 8 o'clock in the morning. That's the schedule. I'll check to make sure it's up. And as you can see, if for some reason it doesn't, you can always email me. No, don't email me. Please don't email me, because I don't check it that often. Call my cell phone, 314-708-3345. I think that's listed on the syllabus. But again, it's 314-708-3345. And let me know, and I'll see if I can't get it up and running for you. But if it doesn't come up, if everything blows up, we'll do it another way. So don't panic if it doesn't come up. It's not a one-time shot if there's technical problems, of course. Again, I'll make the point that the test is synergistic. So just knowing the data is not going to be enough. You have to probably listen in the classroom presentations. Some of them are just straight definitions, of course. Some of them I think you'll find pretty easy. Some of them you'll find difficult. So that's why you should take good notes. The way I'll go about doing this is I'm going to start in chapter 1. I'm going to go through pretty quickly what the question is over, what it's about. I'm not going to tell you the question. I'm not going to tell you, what the answer is, of course. But I'm going to tell you what to study, what areas to study. If you study diligently, you should do well. If you don't, you won't do well. And even if you study diligently and you don't do well, and I'll have this discussion too when we have class after the exam. You don't panic, because it's just 1/4. In this case, this test accounts for 10%. This gets 10% of your grade, so it's a significant part of your grade. But again, you're accumulating points in a variety of areas. If you get 40 points, you got 40 points, and that can be beneficial going on. I've had students that have made 40 and never make above a 70 or an 80 on the exam, and still get a B or even an A in some cases, depending on how you do on the rest of the stuff that's out there. That's why I encourage you to get as many points as you can from the areas where it's easy to get, and the ones that are a little more difficult with the exams. You can offset some of that pretty easily. And again, it's easy to get points for you get 300 points for the turning in your end of chapter questions, as I've asked you to do. So if you don't turn them in, you lose them. And like one student this last time didn't get in time, so they lost that 92 points that were available for those 4 weeks. So, you know, I'm starting to be a little more stingy, I guess, with the awarding of points, but it's not hard to get. You just got to do the work, and hopefully it'll enhance your learning for us. So, what I'll do with this exam, again, I want to go through this, kind of give you the general idea. I'll tell you what chapter it's in, I'll tell you what it's about and what area it's talking about, and I'll get through as quick as I can. Hopefully it won't be more than 15-20 minutes to give you the review for this. Maybe a little longer. I think there's 51, 52 questions that are on the exam, so it takes a little while to go through to give you the description. And I'll leave the video up, you know, for the whole semester, so you can always go back to it. I always encourage students to do that, is to go back and review the review, if you will, before the second exam, because it's going to have some of these questions on there as well. So, with that said, I hope you're doing well now. I hope you're paying attention. I hope you got a pencil and paper ready to roll, and we'll go from there. So, we're in chapter 1, obviously, starting in chapter 1. First question is, you know, regarding in you know, looking at the several different things that the client has to do. It has to do with the unauthorized practice of law. So you need to know, you know, what is that? What constitutes the practice of law? And there's several circumstances here that the planner is doing, and then ask you to choose which of those are one of those. And again, this is one of those multiple, what I refer to as multiple choice questions. So you've got like 4 different things that she's doing, and it's asked you to pick whether it's one of them, 2 of them, 3 of them, or all of them. You know, so you need to know what that is in order to get the question. What's the common estate planning goal? So this isn't the E&E we talked about. You know, but what is the it may include the E&E, but there's like 4 different options, and which one of them is an estate planning goal? That's the second question. The third question in chapter 1 has to do with what should somebody bring to the meeting? What are the things that they should bring to the meeting for the estate plan? Okay, and again, there's things on there that aren't relevant, things on there that are, and you need to choose which one it is. Excuse me, I have to yawn again. Sorry. Got the yawns today, I guess. And what are transfer costs? Okay, what are the things that would be considered legitimate transfer costs? So you'll need to, as it relates to estate planning. Okay, and you should know what transfer costs mean. I'll give you that this time. That would be costs that would affect the efficiency of the estate planning process. Okay. Next question. Who are the people that would work together to make the best team to help clients? So who are they? You know, are they which people are they? I could be silly and say several things, but just find out and look in chapter 1, and it has a good list there of the best people to help your clients. Okay. Usually. Okay. 6th question in chapter 1. This has to do with who should prepare a client's will. Again, a little bit of same thing related as I've already talked about. The unauthorized practice of law are things that the CFP can be doing and not doing without breaching that unauthorized practice concept. What are some of the risks associated with failing to plan an estate? You know, we talked about some of the reluctance of planning an estate. Why would they want to plan an estate? What are things that might motivate them to do that? And the 8th question here in chapter 1 is another question about the unauthorized practice of law. Okay, that's it. There's 8 questions out of chapter 8. Excuse me, 8 questions out of chapter 1. So that's it. Those you got those there again. Not very very deep. Okay. Now we go to question 2. First question in chapter 2 you know, has to do with a pretty lengthy scenario, and it talks about some of the reasons that you know statements are true regarding the scenario, and just you know, what are things that you know will transfer, and what is the issue of titling and documents, and you know what the things would be transferred correctly. You know, some of the statements about the lifetime credit, those type of things. You know, the question is, you know, there's 4 different statements about the idea of estate planning documents, and which might result in intestacy, those type of things. Okay, relatively vague what I just said, but again, I think when you see the question, you'll pretty much figure it out. But it has to do with you know, state intestacy laws, why stuff would transfer via state intestacy laws, and what would be a good designation or a good way to transfer the assets in an effective manner. Okay, you know, the next question here has to do with you know, inappropriate form of an estate planning perspective. You know, what might an estate attorney tell someone regarding the planning process? And you've got some ideas there, some statements there that you would pick the best one. Okay. Another lengthy scenario. I say lengthy. It's probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, about 15 lines. I have no idea where we talk about estate worth and you know, where the stuff is, how it's titled, those type of things. And then the questions relate again, you know, what's correct about the statements that are given. You know, and we talked about something about moving from one state to the next, and you know, looking at when to amend the will, those type of things. So I think if you read it carefully, you'll be able to decipher what they're looking for here. This question has to do with you know, some of the documents of the estate planning, of the will and testament, the living will, the power of appointments, the power of attorneys, you know, the do not resuscitate order, and in what circumstances. And there is given a set of circumstances, but when would some of those things be necessary? Again, here's primarily 100% terminology, almost all terminology. So again, back to that same process. It's important to know the terms here, know what the terms mean, and how do they apply to certain circumstances. The question number 8 has to do with a what would constitute a general power of attorney, and you know, again, back to the powers of attorney. You know, there's limited, there's specific, and there's general, and what constitutes, you know, those type of things. Terminology again. Number 9, the question in chapter 2, and again about powers of attorney, and what's included in them, what she would need to do based on the circumstances that are given. So I'd review the powers of attorney laws. You know, this one talks about what's the question here? You know, it's talking about how to make sure. It's about per stripes and per stirpes. We talked about that term. Again, you know, a given scenario here, and a case where the per stripes or per stirpes would apply, and the questions about those. So you should look at the per stripes or per stirpes. Chapter 11 again deals with a particular set of circumstances and wants you to pick which, if any, of the 4 listed documents would be applicable. Again, these are talking about just some of the different titling processes that we had, fee simple, what a living will is, durable powers of attorney, those type of things. Which one will be appropriate in light of the circumstances that are given? Question 12 talks about some of the provisions that would go into a will. Now, we looked at that pretty quickly, but you can go back there and review that area a little bit. Just talk about some of the provisions in the will, some of the things to not include in the will, those type of things. This question you'll be fine with. This one here is again, powers of appointment, what kind and what would be appropriate to do in light of the circumstances that are given. Okay. And question 14 has to do with a will and what by describing the circumstances of which of the holographic, the pneumacupative, or the statutory type of thing, which of those would apply in the given circumstances, or how do you, which type of will is it based on the description that's given. Another question has to do with wills and some of the issues regarding survival in regard to the death, and again what happens in the sequence of events regarding property leaving where the beneficiary may not be there anymore. That type of question. Question 16 has to do with what someone might bring or what information that a financial planner might need in order to begin the estate planning process. Some documents from that perspective laid out in that chapter 2. What constitutes dying intestate? What is situations where that would be the case? Again, terminology. Here's another one regarding somebody changing a will. It gives the circumstances of a couple of people dating and so forth. This one has to do with how do you prevent one will being written, and what happens if you decide you want to take some people out of it. How do you go about doing that? And again, another question on power of attorney is question 19. Question 20 in chapter 2 is a springing power of attorney. What is that? What's it used for? Those type of things. Okay, now we're moving to chapter 3. All right, and the first question in chapter 3 has to do with probate estate. How are you identifying probate estate, and what constitutes being under probate, not being under probate, those type of things. Next question is a life estate. What is that? How does that work? What's its characteristics? Another question about ancillary probate. First of all, what is it? And then what are the complications? What are the procedures? Those type of things. Now we're just getting into identification, and I want to know which states would be considered community property states. You remember there's 9 of them. I just make a list, and now you can answer that question pretty easily. Next question, question 5 in chapter 3, is ownership and titling of land based on what would be the best case based on the circumstances that are given. So how is land titled? What's the kind of ownership that's of that are there, and the characteristics that are there, picking out the best one in light of the circumstances that are given. Question number 6 again relates to circumstances and how to go about titling it. Here you got to be careful with which of the joint holdings require common ownership, which one of them might have a right of survivorship, which don't, those type of things, and then picking the best one out of a given set of circumstances. Question number 7, has to do with bases in a home, okay, and particularly in related to community property. What happens in community property? What happens in death for the survivors' bases, as well as the owner, as well as the deceased's bases. Again, rules regarding community property, common rules. Again, caution that those are always specific to some degree based on the state that you're living in. But we're talking about kind of the general concept of community property laws. Again, talking about percentage of ownership now in described circumstances. In this case, let me see, under joint tenancy right of survivorship, you got to keep the rules involved from there. What about contribution requirements, those type of things, and then gives you some circumstances to answer questions on about that. Then a section where they talks about making gifts during the year. Now we're still in question 3, and we really don't get to gift tax, but this happens to be dealing with gifts what type of ownership is a certain gift of the 3 different options. So you have to identify when it's described what is a fee simple, what is joint tenancy, what is a tenancy in common, community property, and how does it relate to the information? Which one is the ownership of the card to classify? So it's kind of a definition in reverse. Next question, question 10, has to do with again jointly owned property. What is the ownership? A little bit of calculations there, and how that works regarding debts of co-owners, those type of things. If somebody holds up in tenancy in common, and one of the tenant holders goes bankrupt, how does that impact you? Okay, if at all. Okay. Another question about joint tenancy right of survivorship as it relates to contribution levels. So you have to be careful about the requirements in this case in joint tenants regarding contributions. So make sure you know that particular area. Another question about given a set of circumstances, and given a list of the ways that the property can be held, entitling of that property, based on the circumstances given, which of those would apply. Whether it's one of them, whether it's 3 of them, whether it's 4 of them, there's like 5 given. So you just need to be very familiar with fee simple, tenancy in common, joint tenancy, survivorship, tenancy by the entirety, community property, and what are the requirements and regulations, or requirements and rules, I guess, not regulations, rules of those various ownership types of property. Another calculation regarding basis of the property, given what somebody purchased it for, what they contributed in, those type of things. So look at those. There's a couple of examples of that in the text, and you'll be able to answer that question pretty well too. Again, a description of several of ownerships, and then a requirement to want to know how it's classified. And here we're looking for a life estate, legal title, equitable title, and interest in property. Life estate, legal title, equitable title, and interest in the property. Didn't cover that very well in the chapter, so you need to look that up and pay particular attention to that particular issue. Okay, that's all the questions. There's 14. It's all questions in chapter 13. Final chapter on the exam is chapter 4. So here we go with those. And this chapter has to deal almost completely with the probate process. Just finished that chapter before, so there'll be a number of questions here, like this first one, Um, you know, and they keep wanting to put these non-traditional relationships, kind of put a twist on it. You'll need to make sure you know what domiciliary or domicile means, and and looking at the goals that are given and which of you know the if the goal here, you know, that of accomplishing getting the property transferred from one state to the other, and what is the best titling to accomplish the goals there. And we're looking here at um, you know, the how to go about doing something based on the goals. You know, whether it's a beneficiary, or whether it's joint ownership, or whether it's not writing a will and just you know, specifically bequeathing. You know, those are moved to a community property state. You know, based on those type of things of the circumstances given, which is the best option. Okay, question 2 has to do with what empowers the executor. Now, you know what happened, you know, where the executor is appointed, you know, to act as the agent of a probate court. You know, what is a court issue in order to make sure that people that the executor has to deal with knows that he has the authority to operate for the deceased, is what we're looking for here. And here's just a simple question, so this just should be easy to prepare for. It gives you a list of assets and wants you to identify those that would be passed through probate. Okay, what gets it in probate, what gets it out of probate, and another question regarding you know, how property can pass outside of probate, what titling. What things would allow property to not have to go through probate. Okay. This question has to do with a series of assets entitled in different ways, and then you have to identify which one or which. In this case, you have to add up what is the probate estate. It'll give you the values of what's held, then how much of it is added up to calculate the probate estate. Here is another listing of circumstance with kind of a few family members put together, circumstances of what they own, you know, what their conversation is, that type of thing. And then we're looking for you know, of the types of wills and the types of trusts, those type of things. You know, what would be the best option to, you know, to be the least likely, or what would a planner least likely recommend to the person involved in this in order to meet their objectives towards their goals. Okay. Question number 7 has to do with a list of property, and then some questions regarding what happens, whether it's how is it transferred, you know, will it go in through or out of probate, those type of things. Okay, based on the circumstances given. Here, and this question 8 is what are the disadvantages of probate? Yeah, there's just listed 4 of them. You have to you know, say whether there's 1 of them, 3 of them, so forth. Another multiple choice questions. Here's next. The question number 9 has to do with legacy. How you know, the extinction of a legacy. What is that called? Okay, so it's, I guess, for example, somebody buying a house and how it's left to somebody, and then selling the house and then purchase a new home and so forth. and then what is we're looking at things like abatement, redemption, surety, letters of testamentary, those type of things. What is the illustration of those four things that I gave you: abatement, redemption, surety, letters of testamentary? What's being described there is what it is. Okay. Question number 10, again, listing a list of assets, how they're held, and which one would pass through probate. This question has to do with what would be included in a probate estate, what wouldn't be. There's a few, another one of those list of things to pick from. Okay, that's it. That's all the questions on the exam. Again, it comes up September 30th at 8 o'clock, goes down October the 2nd at midnight. You have about 2.5 minutes, so budget your time well. Don't spend a whole lot of time on one question. If you get lost, just guess and go on. It's better to finish everything than it is to leave, get caught short when the hour is over. I'm not sure that the test will go down exactly at an hour. It may. I know in Blackboard it didn't let you have access to the test. It just didn't give you your grade, and it told me how many minutes over that you were. But I'd recommend you do your study sufficient and time and budget your time by going through the exam that you finish within the hour. And I'd even say before that, give you some time to go back and review some of your questions. I caution you about changing your answer. Usually the first answer is always the best answer. If you're really sure, if you really know that somewhere along the line in taking the test, something sprang to life in your mind, and you go back in and you say, that's not the right answer, I think it's this answer, and you're real sure about that, then go ahead and change it. But be careful doing that. Some people move out of that. Don't take your time to think. Don't be intimidated. Again, the whole exam is up there at one time, so you can move around in it as you feel free. Also remember that oftentimes the question you didn't get before, the next time you see a question about that particular topic, it may trigger the thought in your mind unless you remember to go back and answer the other question right. Now, the other thing I'll caution you to do is make sure the questions that you get, you write, you keep track of them. The test should not re-scramble the question if you for some reason get knocked out of the exam. Again, I'm referring back to the old Blackboard. If you got knocked out because of some reason you couldn't get back in, don't get out before you finish. You can't stop and come back in. You need to finish all at one time. That's because of the time frame that you're there. So we'll see how this works. This will be an experiment. Hopefully it'll work like it's supposed to, and everything will work so we can just get the grades and move on to the next topic. Again, I'll finish talking about the gift tax when I get back, and hope you do well. Have a great week, good weekend coming up, and I'll see you on October the 4th.